Hey, everybody, it's Dr. John Sherk, and this is Brown Bag Lunch. We're here again on Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock Central Time with tips, tricks, and other things to help you um, fully staff, fully man your service company so you can treat your people well, make some money, and have a good life. So, I'm increasingly moving more and more towards speaking to an audience of technicians. So as you hear more and more comments, just be aware of that. Many of you that listen to me are owners or kind of general manager types, and so just know that as I'm moving forward. What I'm going to say today applies to both. It in particular applies to anybody whose direct responsibility is to be responsive to a customer. Now, general manager, we want everybody to be responsive, right? But a general manager does not have that in the same way as, for example, a technician, who the next call comes in, that's their next task. They didn't know where it was going to be, they didn't know what it was going to be. The next one, they don't know what it's going to be until they get there, and then the next one, and the next one, the next one, and so it's very responsive. Which brings us to the topic of time management, and how do you do time management in a service business? Um, Traditional time management, good old fashioned Stephen Covey, Franklin Planner. Sorry if you guys weren't as old as me, but the good old fashioned way of doing it involved 5 steps. Pretty straightforward. First, you would do a brain dump, meaning everything you knew in your head that had to get done, you'd get out on a piece of paper, right? And then along with that, you would add things that you know are priorities. They may not be weighing on you, but they need to get done. You create a big list, right? And then you go through and prioritize that list, right? Then you schedule your priorities. Then you go do what you prioritized and scheduled. And then lastly, you manage interruptions, right? So, with the idea being that you're increasingly in control of your time, you're in control of what you do. And I've taught this to multiple service company leadership teams, and I always get the same thing back. John, that doesn't really work for us because that's not the way our world works. Our world does not work by eliminating interruptions because those interruptions are how we make money, right? So, what I want to give you today is kind of an alternate version or an add on to that approach to managing your time. That thing I just talked about, where you brain dump, prioritize, schedule, execute, manage interruptions, it still should be part of your framework for how you're going to do things. But it doesn't work as well on a minute by minute or hour by hour basis, right? So instead of prioritizing a task at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, you need to prioritize um, either how you're responding or what you're doing in this flow of things throughout the day. So let me talk to you about what I mean. The 3 pieces that I want to just put in front of you today are part of the classic Stephen Covey seven habits. It's just the first 3 habits to be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first. And so, for people in a service business, when you're, especially true for technicians here, when you're over and over and over again responding, right? When you're, or if you find yourself in an environment that is highly authoritative, that is saying, shut up, you do what I tell you, I don't want to hear anything else about it, go, do it now, no debate, no discussion, do it, right? In those kinds of environments, there's a slow evolution away from the feeling of choice or proactivity, or people in those environments can slowly feel like I'm not really in control of my life. And this begins to expand into other areas. Well, they will say, well, now I've got this wife, excuse me, and I've got these kids. Can't do anything about that either. And I'm just living this whole life where I'm just kind of hanging on, and I get up and I go to work, and the weekend comes and the weekend goes, and I'm not really even in it. I'm just along for the ride, right? And mentally, it's saying I don't have any choices anymore. I don't live in a world where I have choices. That is deadly to both your self-esteem and your sense of personal motivation. So if you can imagine, and this is the Covey thing, if you can imagine, here's a stimulus and here's a response, right? Catch a call comes in, catch the call. Stimulus response. Call comes in, catch the call. Call comes in, catch the call. In between these two, right, is your zone of choice, meaning how am I going to catch the call? In what way am I going to catch the call? With what values am I going to catch the call? Right? When you go home and you're with your family, when you're not on call and out on the weekend, when you're with your family and you've got stimulus response, it's the wife says, "Hey, let's go to some festival, and I really want to look at little tchotchkes made out of buttons," and you're thinking, "Oh God," right? In that context, make choices, not just either go with the flow or completely pull out of it, right? So being proactive in the service business simply means choosing to stay present as these things you need to respond to are happening, right? And it's creating an umbrella mindset, a frame that as you're responding to these things, this is still a life that you've chosen and a life you still want. Because the technicians that I talk to, they struggle to have that feeling of choice, but they still love taking care of customers. And they still love it when, something's broken and they can figure it out and they can fix it, right? It's just that their perception of their larger life begins to get lost in the stream of other things, okay? So that's the beginning of being proactive. So, reactive language, if you find yourself saying things like, "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am. He makes me so mad. They won't allow that. I have to do what they say. I can't. I must, if only," right? You're not bringing choice into that zone between stimulus and response. On the other hand, if you're saying things like, "Well, let's look at our alternatives," or "I can choose a different approach," or "I can control my feelings. I can create an effective presentation to the people who won't allow that. I will choose an appropriate response." Things like "I choose," "I prefer," and "I will." That sort of language indicates one or the other. Okay. Now, the second one is beginning with the end in mind. And because many of us work in and around a construction world, usually when we say beginning with the end in mind, we're talking about a project plan or a drawing for a building. And, none of us would build a house by saying, "Well, I don't really know where this is going. Let's just start building walls. Let's see how this goes," right? None of us would do that. But what Covey is getting at here is not that specific. What he's saying is, who's the person you want to be, and begin with that end in mind, right? What are the big tent pegs that you want to hang your whole life on? Is it things like family? Is it money? Is it yourself? Is it your spouse? Is it your faith? Is it your career? What are the things that they're gonna guide you? I have a number of technician friends here in South Louisiana that one of their tent pegs is simply being outside, connecting with nature. Because of the reality in South Louisiana of swamps and woodland and hunting and fishing, there's a lot of people who really connect that way, and that's fine. That's one of your center tent pegs. I'm not judging or telling you what it should be. It's just being aware and to some degree choosing what those are going to be, right? And then being able to divide your life into no more than 7 roles. Now, this is a very valuable tool because many people, we all have multiple values. None of us are only about one thing, and that's it, right? That's really an unhealthy place to be. We're about multiple things, but it's very common to feel like when I'm in thing A, I feel guilty because I'm not in thing B, right? This is the classic mom dilemma, working mom dilemma. When I'm at work, I'm not with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I'm not at work. And then, feeling like these dilemmas. So when you understand your life as a set of roles, then when you're in one of the roles that you've decided is one of the roles that matters to you, just go ahead and be all the way there. And in this sense, you're managing your time, right? And so if you look at something that you're doing, especially if it's a habit or a routine, and it doesn't fit into one of your roles, then it has to go, right? That's how you know you're not aligning with your values and becoming the person you want to be. And I do this, and so you know mine, just for example, I have 7. I have husband, right? I have father, brother, son. When my kids were younger, dad would have been a role by itself, but now they're all in their 20s, and it's a different. The family side of that is a different animal. So father, brother, son is there. Consultant coach is the third one, which is a little bit what I'm doing right now. Number 4, technician happiness guru. There's one of my roles where I spend time is researching, writing, thinking, creating. How do I become an expert people look to, which some people already do, but how do I increase that in terms of what makes a great life for a technician? What are the dynamics that, if they are in play, Tech A, all things being equal, is going to be happier than Tech B in life? And so some of that's about work, some of that's not, right? Because my goal is really not, and forgive me for owners who are going to hear what I'm about to say, my goal is not to find ways for you to squeeze just a little more out of those people. I'm not part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. My goal is to help technicians know how to be happy and how to decide how to have a conversation with an owner if they're not, right? And what to go look for and what to do so they can build a happy life. Again, in the context of being so reinforced to just go, respond, right? So number 4 for me is technician happiness guru. Number 5 is human with a body, meaning my physical reality requires maintenance. And I'm well into my 50s now, so it requires a lot more than it used to, right? So more trips to the doctor, everything from dental to metabolic to, the whole shooting match, right? That's a whole role that exists in my world. And then number 6, human with a mind and a soul. So I have several groups that I'm in, a mastermind group where the whole purpose of me being there is to challenge my mind, to challenge my values, not to question them, but to grow in them, right? And then the last one is moneymaker and business partner. And it's just one of those deals. There's times where I'm doing things to make money and, being a good business partner. So those are my 7. Now, what I encourage you to do is think through what are your 7 roles. And again, what this means is you should see a harmony between what's all on your calendar and those 7 roles. And if things are on your calendar that you would say, this doesn't fit, this is where time management comes in, and you should make those changes. Now, one of my common questions I get here is, well, John, what if I just want to relax at the end of the day? I mean, I can't work and sleep, and that's all. I know, right? So in my case, human with a mind and a soul has to do with recovery and intentional recovery. Human with a body has to do with quality of sleep and physical recovery, right? Those things, there's no time in my calendar that doesn't fit into one of those categories, right? So I encourage you to just do the same. Think it through. If you're a technician, working as a tech is one of those roles, but you can also kind of spin that into where your values are expressed. In other words, if what you really love about being a tech is taking care of customers, then you're in a customer care role during that time. On the other hand, if what you really love about being a tech is the technical side of it and finding things that are broken and need to be fixed, great. Then you're in fix it mode, if that's what you value and where you find your most satisfaction. Okay. So that's number 2. And then number 3, he talks about putting first things first. And the core idea here, he aligns the issues of important and urgent. So something can be important and urgent, and you've got to do it now, a crisis, a pressing problem. Something can be not important but urgent, meaning some interruptions, some calls, some mail. They're just not important, but they're pushing you. They're presenting themselves as now, right? There's some things that are not important and not urgent, and they just need to be avoided. Trivial stuff, busy work, some conversations with some people that just, there's no point to them. And then there's the important but not urgent. And this is where the proactivity comes in, right? If you have things in your world that are important but they're not giving you that stimulus response trigger, then you have to find a way to trigger yourself to do them, whatever that looks like, right? And for a lot of technicians, this is the zone of difficulty where they say, I want to prioritize myself. I want to prioritize my family, but I can't because I'm always on call or I'm always whatever. And I don't know how to do this, right? Well, stay tuned. And please stay tuned for my podcast that we're launching the first week of September called HVAC Joy Lab, because all we're going to talk about is this topic. All we're going to talk about is your point of view, my point of view, the guest's point of view on what makes a great life for a technician. Okay. So I realize the difficulty, but also realize this is where the gold is. If you can find a pathway, negotiating with your boss, negotiating with your spouse, that things that are important, but they're not urgent, or at least something outside of you isn't making it urgent. You may feel urgency yourself, but everything else around you says that's not important. You shouldn't pay attention to that. That's not important to us. And so you got to figure out what to do with that, right? But all of this comes together with a little reflection, a little thought, a little experimentation, learning a few negotiation skills, learning some feedback skills, and you as a technician can build a life that makes you super happy. You can do it, right? And I'm going to keep giving you tools and tactics to get you there. Okay, stay tuned. All right, I'm Dr. John Sherk. This has been Brown Bag Lunch. I just encourage you, if you enjoy what you've heard today, comment below, reach out. I'd love to get on the phone with you for 15 minutes. We get to know each other a little bit. Let me know that's why you're calling, because that will, it will cue me in to, honestly, to not either try to sell you something or whatever, because I know why you're calling. And we'll just get to know each other. And everybody in the industry, I want to hear what your point of view is on what makes a great life for a technician. Okay. So this has been Brown Bag Lunch, and we will see you next week.